Okay, did you click it?
Yes.
Yay! You are all in for a treat today. I have one of my favorite YouTube podcasters as a guest, Dave Knapp from On the Pen. He has been doing Mounjaro over a year longer than me, almost when it first came out. And I tell you what, this guy, he has got his ear to all the news that comes out about GLP-1s. He knows what studies are being done on new medications that haven't come out yet. He also listens to the business reports for Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. He is on top of it all. He even has written a book about GLP-1s to help those of us who have family members who are kind of curious or wondering, why are you taking a GLP-1? I don't get it. What is a GLP-1? And it's a really great guide that explains very well how Mounjaro, Zepbound, Ozempic, Wegovy, how these kind of medications affect your body and your health in a positive way. Dave knows it all. I tell you what. And if he doesn't know it yet, he'll know it next week because he's always trying to learn even more. And today is a live video with Dave. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask him a question and we'll get hopefully some really good answers too. So it's just a super privilege to have our buddy Dave join us. And before I throw him on real quick, this is my 85th week of taking Mounjaro. I will be giving myself my Mounjaro shot, 12.5 milligrams live during this broadcast, at some point during the broadcast. I also, let's see, I've been doing this for 85 weeks. So I do have a Mounjaro journey playlist, so you can see all the different every week that I've been on here. And I've just started having guests, and I think Dave is maybe my 5th guest or so. I don't know, but I'm super excited. And if you would ever like to be a guest too, all you have to do is reach out and email me, Gina at anchormoments.com, and we'll set up a time that you could be a guest on a future Anchor Moments show as well. All right, let's bring on my buddy Dave.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dave. And you guys, if you hear any very weird, strange noises, or you see Jeff jump up and run off the screen.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Whoa, could you hear that, you guys?
Right on cue.
Oh,
yeah, right.
Man.
That was thunder.
Yeah.
It was a big lightning strike.
Yeah.
We are right at the beginning of a dust storm here in Chandler,
Arizona.
And it, I think maybe it has the worst part done, but we're going to have a thunderstorm afterwards.
Oh, I already saw lightning, and
Yeah.
I heard some thunder. I'm seeing lightning, and it's a thick cloud of dust and lots of wind.
But we're on a laptop here, so it doesn't need external power in case all the lights go off or whatever.
Oh, that's right. We still might be okay.
We still might be okay, except the
internet.
What needs electricity is
The
hot
router,
spot.
the hot spot.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
If we stop early, we'll have to continue later. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually in Arizona, the only weather we have is hot.
Yeah.
But right now is monsoon season, and we do have a real big monsoon right this minute. Okay, Dave Aru, so exciting to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about your Mounjaro journey?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And that was wild how that lightning hit right on cue. Your faces both lit up, and we definitely heard it. At least I heard it on my end. So I hope that you're both safe, and feel free if you feel like you need to run for safety. We'll say a prayer for you, and we can reschedule this another time. But thank you both for having me. And I always love the chance to talk with other, I call you all GLP-1 nerds, people who get
Yep, I'm
super
one.
excited about these medications. My Mounjaro journey is, not super exciting. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in the fall of 2020. I always have to do the math here. Fall of 2021, I believe. A year, kind of the year after I had COVID a couple of times. And I was telling my wife that I was feeling like I had narcolepsy, or I almost, I say this jokingly, but I seriously wondered if I had cancer or something. I was feeling
Mhm.
just completely run down. And I just kept telling my wife, this is not normal how I feel. Had some kidney stones, a couple other things happened, which all led me to the doctor, which all led to a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. And most people, they creep up towards diabetes. Your doctor warns you, hey, if you don't get a hold of this, you're going to be diabetic. Hey, I never got anything like that. I went from 0 to 100. My A1C was, I can hear that thing in the background, that whipping up. I definitely was shell shocked when my doctor told me my A1C was 7.9, so almost 8. And I believe that I shared this on another podcast that I was on this past week. But I really do believe that there's something to the coronavirus. And if you were metabolically on the fringe, that it kicked a lot of people into that full metabolic dysfunction and type 2 diabetes. There have been some
There were some
studies.
results just this week, I believe, Dave, about finding different proteins left over from COVID in people's blood vessels and other things that are, if they're experiencing long COVID, that there may be some things that are residual left behind. But I don't know all the details. Just came out, I thought.
Interesting. I'll be very interested to check that out. I know there's been a few small studies that have come out over the years that maybe pointed to something like that. But that was my theory, because I'd never been warned, that, hey, it's creeping up. And anyways, my weight was up there too, 319 pounds when I was diagnosed type 2 diabetes on a 5'10" frame. So my BMI was up in the mid 40s, mid to upper 40s. And so my doctor said, hey, what do you want to do, Dave? And I said, I don't want to be on medicine. And he goes, well, there's one way you can do that. You can do keto. And so he put me on this keto program. The problem is I had been yo-yo dieting on the keto diet for like 17 years. And I told him, I just want you to know that this thing doesn't really stick well with me, but I want to be around for my kids. I'm going to give this the old college try to do, as best I can with it. And, so yeah, I buckled down for a full year. I did very strict keto. I was wearing, and I still, funny, my CGM went off before, my continuous glucose monitor went off before, while we were chatting. And I think Gina and Jeff thought it was her alarm.
Yeah, Jeff thought it was fine.
Diabetes problems. Okay, but yeah, I wear a continuous glucose monitor, which is gonna always be monitoring my sugars, and it fed right back to my doctor. So he knew I was minding my P's and Q's and doing what I was supposed to do, but I wasn't losing weight. I got to the end of this full year, and my A1C went from almost 8 all the way down to 5.4. So my A1C was really good, but my weight went from 319 to 312. I lost 7 pounds, and that was super disheartening. I was happy to have gotten that A1C in check, but so frustrated that the weight didn't go down. And I wasn't super surprised by it. Frustrated, yes, but wasn't super surprised, because for the previous year, anything I tried to do to lose weight, I couldn't do it. It was like everything that I had normally tried was not working to lose weight. And my insulin levels were off the chart. Everything was out of whack. And he said, basically, you're one of very few people that go on this program that don't respond. I know you're doing what you're supposed to do. I monitor your CGM. We've been talking. I think you just need to have bariatric surgery. And I wasn't super excited about the idea of having my anatomy rearranged at years old, 37 years old. But I thought, if it's going to make me live longer for my kids, I'm willing to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, hey, doc, if you think I'm going to live longer, I'll do it. And he said, absolutely. So I looked into it, and I didn't have coverage at the time for bariatric surgery. And so what he told me is, hey, there's this class of medications, if you've heard of Ozempic, and they're mimicking what bariatric surgery does hormonally. So most people that go in and have bariatric surgery, everybody just thinks they lose the weight because they're not eating. Well, in reality, there is a resetting of these gut hormones called incretins, and that's what these shots sort of mimic. And they're expensive, but since you're diabetic and have the diagnosis, you can probably get it pretty cheap. Let's see what we can do. So I went home and I did what any good elder millennial would do, and I went to YouTube. I thought, what's YouTube going to tell me about this? And at the time, there was nothing about Mounjaro at all. There was a fair amount of people who were on Ozempic to lose weight. And so I learned a little bit about Ozempic. And anyways, I just really thought, hey, I'm going to go learn about this stuff. And if I'm going to take the time to learn it, I'm going to share it so that whoever comes behind me doesn't have to do all this digging. And hopefully I can say it in a way that helps them to understand it so that they can understand that there's treatment and that there's help. And so that was my introduction to Mounjaro. And I started in the fall of 2022. It was literally 1 year exactly after my type 2 diabetes diagnosis. And I've been on it, some form of a GLP-1 for just shy of 3 years now.
Wow.
You guys doing all right there?
It's a little scary.
Is there a way to flip it over so people can see it just for a second? Because it's like
here.
The computer.
I feel awkward. I feel awkward just casually telling my story when it sounds like your roof's about to blow off.
I know, it's like insane.
Would you, if you were listening and you're tuning in to hear what we're saying, if the noise from the storm, because we actually have two skylights right there, and the raindrops are very loud on them, I realize. So if you're having trouble hearing, can you let us know? Or if you can hear okay, maybe we just need to talk louder or something like that. Let us know what you think.
Yes.
It's on my end. It's not distracting at all. I feel
good.
I feel bad if you guys are sitting there white knuckling this entire interview, afraid to blow away.
Well, every now and again, I have to put my head closer to the screen so I can hear you over all the rain and wind that's just whipping everything around. It's crazy. It is crazy over here.
It sounds like it.
See it?
Oh man, I hope your poor umbrella survives.
Yeah. Now, Dave, when you started on YouTube, you started On the Pen and Man on Mounjaro. Was that two different channels, or was that all the same channel?
It's a really, really fair question. When I started, I just tried to come up with a quirky name. And so I played off I've always pronounced it Mounjaro. And so I just played off of the moon, man on the moon. And so that was sort of where the man on the Mounjaro came from. And so if you look closely, my little logo with my purple face and it's a moon in the background.
You can show that. Wait a second. Jeff has that.
And what's that?
Jeff has that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So that's where man on the Mounjaro came from. On the Pen became more of an overall name for sort of the platform of obesity news, because what happened was things moved pretty quickly. Sorry, I just got a funny text from my wife. Things moved pretty quickly to news, right? I became very fascinated with the future treatments. Well, I became very fascinated with the science behind how these drugs work. And with why people responded so well to them, and what they were doing to our brains to quiet food noise. And it just all became very fascinating for me. And so quickly I just started following like Eli Lilly earnings calls and like just stuff that's just nerdy kind of. And as I shared that stuff, I found there were other nerds out there too. And what the sort of common theme was that we were all on the pen. We were all using an injector pen with a GLP-1 of some sort. And so on the pen just sort of became like a cat of all of the work that we do in terms of GLP-1 news. So it's a little confusing. I get called man on the pen or or Mounjaro Man, or all sorts of.
I like that Mounjaro Man. That's good too.
Well, part of it too. It's funny because people who follow my stuff, like everybody kind of gets in their corners about compounds and whatever. I just try to shoot the news straight as I see it, but it's funny because some people will accuse me of being like in the pockets of big pharma or something.
Oh yeah, you're not. You're just a regular guy wanting to know the truth.
Now, I wish I was in the pockets of big pharma. I'd probably have a job somewhere. I'm open to be bought. If Eli Lilly, if you're watching, I would like a yacht. I would like the SS Eli Lilly.
Mounjaro.
Yeah, the SS Mounjaro. But part of the reason I felt like I needed to sort of shift to On the Pen and get people to know me as that too was like Mounjaro is the brand name of a drug, and I felt like at some point if they start cracking down on this stuff, and boy do I have stories about that. I don't want to be using somebody's intellectual property as a name if that's something they could go after, and so.
Oh yeah, that's smart.
So I started people got to know me as Man on the Mounjaro at the beginning, but now I've been slowly. At some point I'll probably drop that, but I'm still nostalgic towards it. It's like, those were the early days of content creation, and now we're making a living for my family doing this, and so it's like I don't know. There's probably something nostalgic that I just want to continue to hold on to it until I get a cease and desist. So yeah, they're kind of one and the same, but On the Pen is definitely sort of a catch-all for the news that we do and the name of the podcast. It's all
just one YouTube channel. You're not in two different YouTube channels. It's all in one place.
No, I did at one point. I did make a backup YouTube channel when I started. I don't know if you've been watching for a long time, so I don't know if you remember a creator. Her name was Amy Dene. Amy 2.0 was her YouTube channel.
Okay.
And she did a lot of similar stuff to what I do, a lot of similar stories. She would follow the Lilly earnings calls too, and just kind of stay up on the up and up with the news, kind of like the Downsize does now.
Yeah.
She got woke up one. She's like the sweetest lady in the world. Super kind and just sort of soft spoken and very smart and articulate. And she just got her YouTube taken away just out of nowhere. And that really spooked me back when that happened. And so I did make a backup channel around that time. So if you search On the Pen, there might be one with just like a few followers, and that is my channel if I ever have to fire one up. But yeah, we faced a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of shadow banning, we've had Facebook pages taken away. It's not something that we need to probably dwell on in this conversation, but it is a sensitive topic when you're talking about obesity and eating disorders, and all these different things can definitely tread into the algorithm's dark side and get you stuck in a loop. And so, yeah, it's all stuff you just kind of learn to be careful of and have a backup plan for. That's why I push everybody. We talk all, and you have a picture of my website up. I push a lot of people to our newsletter, right? Like you see right at the top of the website, there's that email subscribe. We do a newsletter that goes out probably for some people more than they want. But for me, it's like 3 or 4 times a week. We put stories out on everything that's happening. And really what I tell people is if you sign up for the emails, there's no algorithm that's gonna, the YouTube filter, the filtering for emails could be something, but I don't trust the algorithms anymore to always treat our content fairly. And so
they don't.
And even over here on YouTube, sadly, there's just been some stuff that, if you tread into that topic, then you can get picked up in the algorithm and put in jail. So anyways,
that's not good.
Yeah. The newsletters is what I push everybody to. So yeah, we've got lots of different angles that we provide content for.
Yeah, and I am a member of your newsletter, and I do get it. But what's funny is it always ends up in my spam folder. And when I look at my spam folder, it's like, here's all my Dave newsletters, and then I quick, read my week's worth or whatever.
You can fix that.
I know. I'm going to have Jeff fix that for me.
And you can call anybody who's having that problem too. Can call Jeff.
Yeah.
We'll put his number up, and he'll help you with that.
Yeah.
He's our on the pen tech support.
There you go.
Just let Gina know.
Yeah, there's my email. That's how you find me, Gina@anchormoments.com.
So yeah, we're just making content and trying to. One of the things that I always repeat over and over is just trying to help people have more competent and confident conversations with their doctors.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the more information that you have, the more armed you are to go in. And especially in the early days of GLP-1, it was so important to be armed with information because you just didn't know how much PCP was going to know. I mean, and to some extent, you still don't know. I was in the cardiologist's office today, and, it's just surprising to me how little they had, really heard about, the Wegovy Select trials and some of the studies that came out of the American Heart Association this year, where it actually showed that semaglutide has the capacity to actually repair damaged cells in your heart after a heart attack. And, these are things that you assume that your doctor is going to know because we just live in this world all day long, every day. But they really don't. And so being armed with that information, especially if you're somebody who has had a heart attack at some point, or
if you're having surgery, and the anesthesiologist needs to know that we need to stop you from eating maybe a little bit longer before your surgery because it moves through, all the food moves through your stomach more slowly.
But see, the thing is, you have to tell your surgeon that because you don't know who your anesthesiologist is going to be until you show up at the hospital that day. They just throw you in an anesthesiologist. But I was talking to a surgical nurse when I was on the downsize cruise, and the surgical nurse says, you also need to tell that anesthesiologist that you see right before your surgery, and it's the day of. But if you tell them it's not too late, what happens is it makes them hyper aware that you've been taking the medication, and you tell them when your last shot was, and they'll have everything on the ready. So if you do start to aspirate, they already got it right next to them. They are just set to help you like crazy fast.
Oh, and by the way, we should say that we are not doctors.
Yeah, and Jeff and I are not doctors. Dave's not a doctor. We are just
sharing about our personal experience.
Sharing our personal experience and research.
Yeah, I think that's especially important to those of you who are on the compounded versions of GLP-1s. Because that information is sort of siloed from your medical record. If you're on a GLP-1 and you're getting it through a telehealth and you haven't explicitly told your primary care doctor, or you haven't explicitly told your cardiologist or endocrinologist or whomever running whatever you're getting put under for, they don't even know. And so like, even if they look up your medical history and your list of medications, which I feel like is always wrong anyway. I mean, anytime I go to the doctor, they're like, are you still on? And then they throw out some antibiotic I took when I was 16.
Yes.
And like 18 other medications. I'm like, I don't even know what those things are. I'm on Mounjaro. So you really need to know. But yeah. So yeah, really good point. Really good point. And being armed with this information, I think is so important for people. And thankfully there's a lot of different people putting content out these days. I mean, but those early days where there wasn't really anything there. So from savings cards to how the medicine worked to what side effects people were experiencing, there just wasn't anything there. And so myself and some of the other, I think I see somebody else that watched Amy's channel. So I see somebody that watches.
I missed Amy's channel. I didn't get a chance to see her. When I first was researching, before I started taking it in January of 24, I found you, and I found Countess of Shopping, and Allie were the three. You were the three that I was watching because you were the only three I could find.
Yeah.
And now I watch a lot of different folks. But
yeah, there's a lot out there.
And I threw my hat in the ring on January 10th. It was kind of funny. When I took my first shot on January 10th of 24, a year prior, my doctor was on top of Mounjaro and his type 2 diabetes patients, even though he was just a regular primary care doctor.
Wow.
But Dr. Gannon was like, Gina, There's this new medication. It's doing so fantastic with people with type 2 diabetes. They're losing like 50 pounds on it. And it just came available. Would you like to be put on it? And he had to write Mounjaro on a little slip of paper, and he handed it to me so I could look it up. And my health insurance,
people didn't know what it was.
Yeah, there was no commercials for it yet. I mean, it was just straight out of the gate. And so I asked my health insurance, and they said, oh, no, we're not covering that. And so it was going to be like $1,400 a month or something, and I couldn't afford it, so I didn't do it. And then Jeff later ended up getting bladder cancer in January of 23. And when you have to do the surgeries, there's so many bills.
Surgery.
Yeah, he had his first surgery in January or in November, and his second surgery in January. His first one didn't work, but the second one did. But you get a lot of bills. And we had someone who
guided us like an ombudsman or something.
Yeah. He worked for the Chandler School District, and there was somebody that he was to contact who can help you figure out your hospital bills and doctor's bills, what you're supposed to pay and how much and that kind of stuff. And so we contacted Sarah, and Sarah was helping us with that. And I asked her if she could check one more time to see maybe if my insurance covers Mounjaro now. And she looked it up, and she's like, oh my gosh, Gina, they do now. So I was super stoked. So Jeff's successful second cancer surgery was January 3rd. And I took my first shot on January 10th, a week later. And so Jeff is 1 week out of having major bladder cancer surgery, where it was a robotic surgery. They removed a third of his bladder out to get the cancer out. I mean, it was major. And he had to have a catheter in for 2 weeks. So he was only 1 week into having a catheter, which he hated, by the way. He hated that more than the cancer, I think. Oh my gosh.
Or the catheter.
Oh, he hated that catheter.
I don't blame you. At least you're out. At least you're out for the surgery.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and I was in the bathroom for probably about an hour trying to work up the guts to give myself my first Mounjaro shot in my stomach.
Jeff, come and take me.
Yeah, and then I call him from the bathroom. Come on,
I'll get right on that.
Camera. You got to take me doing my shot for the first time. And he's like, oh, Gina, can't I do it next week? You're supposed to do this once a week.
There's only one first time.
That's right. There's only one first time. And that video gets me the most hits. I get more hits on that every day than I do my new stuff.
Yeah, I know how that goes. I've got some of those old videos that keep my channel alive, honestly.
Yeah. And that's the one for me from 85 weeks ago. Hey, we got Grant. Just gave us a super sticker. Yay! Thanks, Grant. We appreciate that. That is so helpful. Thank you. So anyway, it's been an interesting journey. And when I just started doing mine every week too, Mounjaro Mondays and putting it out there. I figure every video I do, I do the power of one. And if it helps at least one person, Dave, it's worth it.
For sure.
That the time to do that video is 100% worth it. And I always hope there's more than one, but if there's at least one, it's worth it.
And there are. I mean, there are. There's hundreds of thousands of people that are starting these medications each month. And that so many of them are coming to the internet to get anything, again, because the primary care are not always super well versed. I mean, I've heard stories of people who told me that they got prescribed a GLP-1 for diabetes, and they were at the pharmacy when they learned it was a shot, so like their doctor didn't even go through the information with them enough for them to know that. And so I just, there's so much power in community and so much power in knowing that other people have done it and been through it. And I know like a lot of people are scared of needles even at first, which I think after you've done 85 of these things, you're like, whatever. But even at first, the idea, if you've never done it before, taking an injection is kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies. And so you remember back to that, and you just think about all the people that are finding out about these medications and starting them. you know that there's many of them that are coming back to YouTube and TikTok and wherever people are getting their content to try to see what has somebody who's gone before me experienced. And so it's definitely always worth it. And there's a lot of people who say to me often like, hey, I've thought about making videos, but I just don't know if anybody would watch it. And I just tell them the same thing. I mean, people find their people on the internet. I mean, there's so many flavors of content nowadays. You can find different subsets of people with different ideas about diet and exercise and macronutrients. And, that's never been my cup of tea, but there's people out there making that content. And so people have been able to be connected with that. And I just think it's great. I think it's great. The proliferation of these medications, we've watched it sort of in real time happen. And it's been cool to see how many people are having such a positive impact on their life from taking these medications.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, Dave, I really enjoy listening to your stuff and following your journey. And I feel your pain. I really felt your pain from your video last week where you had a 2-year stall. Myself, the last 6 months, I have been gaining and losing the same 2 pounds. I'll gain it, and then I'll lose it, and I'll gain it, and I'll lose it,
At least
in
it's not
between
10
there.
pounds.
Yeah, but at least it's not 10 pounds. And for me, that's a miracle because I'm down 50 pounds from my highest weight. I was down 8 pounds before I took my Mounjaro shot, and then I lost an additional 42. So I'm 50 pounds less than my profile picture was me 50 pounds ago. And to keep that 50 pounds off for the past 6 months, hey, that's huge. I've never been able to keep 20 pounds off for 6 months.
I mean, every year for me, I feel like was a cycle, not necessarily every calendar year, but there was a cyclical year that always was going on in my life where I was losing 25 pounds and gaining 35. I mean, it was a miracle if I didn't end a year lighter or end a year heavier than I did when I started the year. And that is really the gift, for me that Mounjaro has been, is that I haven't had to deal with that. It's been, pretty consistently, like it was down. Most of the weight that I lost was in the first few months, but every year, even though I've struggled for a couple years to lose more, it's been up and down, maybe that 10, 12 pounds, but it's never been back up to where I was, let alone heavier. Like
Exactly.
that was the cycle that it broke. So without Mounjaro, am I 375 pounds, 380 pounds, and then I get into the health struggles that I've had at this weight. And I wonder, would I even be here? And so, you really have to be careful when you are, in the content creation world, but also if you're just a consumer. I know there's a lot of faces and names in the comments tonight that I recognize that I know are all over GLP-1 YouTube. And, that's one of the biggest things that you have to be on guard about, is to not compare your journey to somebody else's, which everybody does. I mean, it's half the reason I think people come here in the first place is, are other people losing as much as I am or as little as I am or whatever it may be? And at the end of the day, you have to find out, what is the medication doing for you? And, it's not going to be 100-pound weight loss for everybody. I'm with you. I've been on it for 3 years. I'm down 46 pounds, I think, in total. But, and that's from that high of 319. So the first 7 was without medication, and the next 40 pounds were with it. But it's been up and down, and I had 276 was the lowest weight that I had ever hit, and I hit that weight within about 4 or 5 months on Mounjaro. And then it was like the rest of it was like gain 5 to 7 to 10 pounds depending on the cycle. I'd be able to pull off, it was just kind of back to the same, struggle that I had been on before the medication, just at a lower weight. And so being able to break that, and I kind of shared on that video for those who didn't see it, when I had a big health scare back in May, and, I was praying to God for healing. I thought I was in heart failure. And I was just asking God, to heal me of whatever was going on. and I believe I received a healing. And I knew that one of the things that I had told God in my conversation with him was like, whatever I'm doing, that's not helpful, like illuminate it. I'll get rid of it. And for me, it was the casual use of alcohol. That was something that was, I think, again, it's hard to parse out, how much you're using it. When you're just using alcohol, it's very easy for it to become a crutch without you realizing that it's a crutch. And it's only really when I took it away that I realized that it was, because I missed it. And I go, well, why am I missing? If it wasn't, something that I relied on, why am I missing it? I don't know. So I think that really was a helpful move for my overall metabolic health, because at the end of the day, and I'm going to share some more in the coming weeks, but my weight's been down. It's been fluctuating a bit since I had that big drop down to 272. It's been kind of fluctuating in the same area. But, one of the things that I've been noticing is I hadn't had a CGM on that whole time. Long story, but
Okay.
I just put one back on like a few days ago, maybe just shy of a week ago. And I had noticed, and I'd been mentioning to my wife, I didn't feel those wild blood sugar swings anymore. I was not feeling these tremendous, like when I went into the doctor's office and was diagnosed with diabetes, I told you, I was feeling this narcolepsy level sleepiness. I still would experience that when I would eat carbohydrates and send my blood sugar up, because the second that blood sugar came down, I'd be ready for a nap. Whether or not I'm on Mounjaro or not.
Right.
And I would say somewhere in the last month and a half, I just kind of sat up straight and I thought, I haven't had that feeling in a while. I wonder what my blood sugars are doing. I wonder if removing the alcohol has improved my diabetes. And what I've noticed on my glucose monitor is they're very normal readings. I don't spike up to 175 or 180 or over 200. It's just not happening.
Right.
And so I think there's been not only an improvement in insulin sensitivity, but just in overall insulin production, maybe a healthier pancreas. I don't know. But I think that there's been some really positive health benefits that I didn't even know that could happen. And so it's been very, very exciting to kind of experience those changes, and definitely reinforcing that sort of decision to not use alcohol.
And I wanted to tell you,
Which this is not, by the way.
Yes.
It looks like a beer bottle.
Well, when I saw that video, that's when I really reached out hard. And I'm like, it's time for you to be on my show now, Dave. Please say yes. Let's get you on next week. Because what I'm thinking it probably was, you'd mentioned, going on, just trying, like, well, maybe I'll try just not doing alcohol anymore. I'm not an alcoholic. I just have, a beer or two, but stop that and see how things go. And then all of a sudden you started getting appetite suppression again on your Mounjaro, and things started feeling better. And then the weight started coming off. Yep. I think what it was with the alcohol, because you weren't drinking enough that you're getting drunk and you have an alcoholism problem. It was just like, your beer or two,
Yeah.
But those beers,
it had become a ritual.
Yeah.
It had become a ritual for me. And so, not that I was over consuming it, but I was consuming it consistently.
Yeah. And it's carbs. So I have one video that it was my Mounjaro mistake while camping. And oh my gosh, David, it was horrible.
Which
and
mistake was that?
Oh, it was a mistake. Okay. So, because I know you're a camper too, and you've got a camper.
Yep.
So we use the app Harvest Hosts, where you can stay at wineries, breweries, museums, golf courses, and their parking lots, farms, all these different places. Museums. Yeah, I said museums. We got to stay at a drive-in theater once. That was really fun. That was
That's fun.
But each of these places will let you spend the night in their parking lot for free, but the expectation is that you're going to buy something at their business.
About $30.
And it's going to be at least about $30. And some nonprofits and churches also will let you stay in their parking lot, but they would expect that you would give at least a $30 donation to their nonprofit or to that church. And I don't drink very much. And so, but if I'm staying at a brewery, I'm going to have a beer. If I'm staying at a winery, I'm going to have a glass of wine. But what killed me is when we were in Minnesota, we stayed at a candy shop.
Now, wait a minute.
Pause.
Time out. Where are you from, Gina?
Illinois. Sterling, Illinois.
You just said the word Minnesota, and I was like, she's from here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sterling, Illinois. And let me tell you, those Midwesterners, what I usually drink is when I'm visiting my family in Illinois, because, they have a drink.
It's all we have in the winter. In the winter, that's what we have. We have drinking. You don't go anywhere or do anything. It's negative 30 degrees out for 3 months. You eat and you drink.
Yeah, exactly. But we went to a candy store, and that's all they sold was candy. That was a bad choice,
by the way. That was a bad choice.
Oh, that was a really bad. If you're trying to lose weight, that's not the Harvest Toast for you. If you're trying to lose weight, don't spend the night at a candy shop. And this candy shop was like the biggest candy shop in northern Minnesota.
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest one in Minnesota.
Yeah, because a Minnesotan told me that there's this other one, it's even bigger than that one. And then when we looked back on their website, it was like, okay, they say they're the biggest one in northern Minnesota or wherever part of Minnesota
we thought maybe we would buy some candy for treats to bring back for the kids when they get back with our trip.
You tell yourself all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But while you're there in a candy shop buying candy, you know what you do?
You buy more candy. Yeah. They had candy that I hadn't seen since I was a little kid. Yeah. Because they had all these old-fashioned candies, nostalgic candies. They had fudge. They had just They had all this stuff. And so I texted my kids because I thought, oh my gosh, we have to buy $30 worth of candy. That's a lot of candy. So I texted my kids, what are your favorite candies? And my kids are old. My daughter's 31, my son's 26. They're adults, but they texted me what their favorite candy was. So I'm like, okay, we'll get the kids candy. But the kind of candy they wanted wasn't $30 worth of candy. So, that was like part of it. And then, we had to have some of the homemade fudge and, threw some of that in. And then I found some of the candies that I loved, as a kid.
Yeah, they mixed the nostalgia in there, and that.
Oh, the nostalgia! And I tell you what, if I eat a candy bar that's chocolate, there's fat with it, and I can do okay. And we've had fudge because, when you're traveling in an RV and you're traveling and you hit these little touristy towns, they have we went to Mackinac Island. There was maybe 10 different fudge stores, there's fudge is part of traveling in some of these fun little touristy towns. And so I've had fudge and I've done fine because there's a lot of fat in fudge. But I had Smarties. With the little candy things, Smartie. And they only have 25 calories in a little tube or, little paper wrapped like a little tube of Smarties, only 25 calories.
Basically diet food.
Oh, there's 100% sugar with, 99% sugar and 1% artificial flavoring. And they had a box like you would go to the movie theater candy box. Yep. Filled with a whole bunch of Smarties candies in there. And I read on the back, one little tube thing of it's only 25 calories. And then they had Airheads. And I used to like watermelon flavored things. And they had a watermelon Airhead stick. And that watermelon Airhead stick had only 60 calories. I could eat the whole stick, just 60 calories.
She's doing the math.
That's not that bad, Right. So those were the candies that I bought just for me, doing the little nostalgia thing. Thank goodness they didn't have candy corn, which is one of my other all-time favorites. That's pure sugar too, with honey, sugar and honey, and a little bit of wax. But I love it. But anyway,
Is that what it is? Is it actual wax?
yeah, I think so. It just takes that kind of wax. If there's something that holds that sugar and honey together.
It is. It's like you would imagine eating a candle.
Yeah. You know, so it seems like it's got maybe a little bit of wax, but that's like my all-time favorite is candy corn with the honey in it. But anyway, so that was the candy that I chose for myself and some of the homemade fudge. Well, I'm thinking I can do this. I can have 4 of those little swirlies of the Smarties, and I can have 1 stick of 160 calories, you know, for another 60 calories. And I'll have 160 calories worth of sugar. That's not that bad. You know, I've thrown it in with all the stuff that I've eaten today. That's not that bad. I could do that. Oh my gosh. Jeff hid all of the candy somewhere in the van, and he fell asleep before me. I had such hunger.
I found a good hiding spot.
The food noise came back so bad. I was like a squirrel. And I was going through our clothes bins, you know, sort of like, did he hide it here? Like, where is it? Because I needed more. And the amount of food noise was painful. It was physically painful for me. That I needed that another sugar hit so bad. You'd think I'd been on cocaine, and I was.
Jeff probably woke up and wondered,
you know, because I needed my next hit.
We had a squirrel in the van.
Yeah, you know, and he woke up hearing this as I am just going through everything in the van, opening up cupboards,
clothes everywhere.
Yeah, trying to be quiet, trying to find it. Oh, sorry.
I get it.
You know, it's my
your CGM.
My CGM. I think what it's probably trying to tell me is it's
time.
It's time
for a new one.
It's time for some Smarties.
Yes, it's time to take it off. There we go. That one's dead. All right. So anyway.
So do you put on your CGM and take your shot on the same night?
Sometimes. But
love it.
Anyway, but it was horrible, Dave. And I only had 160 calories worth of sugar, but it was pure sugar. Yeah. And it just made it ruined everything. I mean, all of my appetite suppression gone. All of my food noise back with a vengeance.
Wow.
You know, from that just pure carbs. And I'd had ice cream. I did okay with ice cream every now and again while we're traveling. I did okay with fudge every now and again while traveling, but that pure sugar, oh my God, it was the worst. And that's kind of, you know, when you're having alcohol is pure sugar too, really. It's just pure carbs.
Yep.
And just by getting rid of that, all of a sudden it's going to let your Mounjaro work. And,
it definitely
work as best as it can.
Definitely seems like that's the case for sure. And I'm like cautiously optimistic that it'll continue to be that way. I got to take my shot tonight too. I should have brought mine with me, so we could have done.
Yeah, we could have done it together. We could have been shooting at the same time.
That's right. I'm actually in my office. I came to my office to do this. I really don't have a great place in my house anymore, which is probably a good thing. I don't have a great place in my house to do videos because the office that I was in forever, it's just been converted to a closet, a walk-in closet.
Oh, no.
It's not really a good place to do it, but it's kind of nice to have that separation too.
Now, is this where you do your podcast?
Yeah. So this is, kind of, let's see. It's just like kind of a workspace. Okay. So you can see there's kind of like a workspace out there. And then, you know, just a podcast background and.
Yeah, and you got your book on the wall too, which we need to talk about next here.
Yeah, it's like a big version of the book. I got to get all situated again. That good? Goodish. Yeah, the book. This it's hard to believe this was like this time of year last year that I was writing it. And it feels like in some ways it feels like ancient history now. but yeah, this book was definitely a labor of love. It was the probably about mentally, I was probably like 2 years in the making of this book, because when I first started to make content, and really, I should say, when I first started to build community around this stuff, the thing that shocked me was how many people didn't tell the people that mattered the most in their life that they were using GLP-1 medications. And it's because there's so much stigma and shame
Oh yeah.
wrapped around living with obesity and living with overweight, and some of that's been put on us by our family. Some of it's been put on, frankly, just by ourselves. But I just wanted to take some of the things that I repeated a lot on my YouTube channel and just put it in a book so that people could broach that conversation with those people in their life. Like, I know that one of the things I kept hearing over and over is like, you just say it so well. I wish I could say it like you do. And I was like, well,
Mhm.
just put it in a book. Right. And so that's what it's designed to be. It's just like the Cliff's Notes for GLP-1. It's not going to tell you how to eat when you're on a GLP-1, and it's not going to tell you, you know, like what side effects you're going to experience on a GLP-1. It's literally a conversation starter so that the people in your life, you know, this is really who it was written for. It was written for that person in your life who's like, you're not on one of those shots, are you?
Right.
And you love that person, right? But you just feel like you're never going to break through to that person. And so it's really just basic science, the origination of how these medications came around, just some myth busting ideas about the history and science behind these medications that I think just pretty much anybody could pick up, read, and understand. So it was really a labor of love, written for the community, and written so that hopefully people could start. And I know I saw Mindy in here earlier. Hers is one of my favorite stories about, you know, she waited to tell her mom that she was on the pen until the book came out, and then did it with the book. And like, that's literally who I wrote it for. And when you said earlier, like, if one person can do that, I mean, just think about the ripple effects of one
Exactly.
relationship being more open and honest, and just what that can do for the whole world. And it's totally worth it. So that's kind of the heartbeat behind the book. There's some good conversation starters in the back for like tips for supporting someone on a GLP-1 medication for weight loss, and conversely, how to start a conversation with a loved one about your choice to treat obesity with medicine. So there's just, you know, there's a lot of really good information, and then there's just some good tips and tricks on how to start those hard conversations so that at the end of the day, everybody can walk away with a little bit more understanding. And there's some of my own stories in there too. At the beginning, just to kind of lay the groundwork for why I'm doing all this. But yeah, it was a labor of love. It was interesting. I'd never written a book before. I'd never published a book before or designed a cover for a book before. My kids helped me do this. I kept tinkering around with the colors, and they thought this one stood out the best. And so
It's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Your kids did a good job with it. And I'm so glad you mentioned Mindy, because I became friends with Mindy through my YouTube channel. She comes up to the live chat a lot, and I asked her if she'd be willing to be a guest on my show, and just like you, and I was able to pull her on from North Carolina to Arizona, you know,
Love
online.
it.
And then when we were visiting her in North Carolina, and we did a second show with her, but in person, it was so fun. Her husband even cooked for us on the live, and it was
Nice.
really fun. And I told her that I wanted to get a copy of your book. And she said, well, Gina, I have extra copies. I'll give you a copy. And so
Aw.
she gave me a copy of your book.
That's
And I
sweet.
read it. I think it is somewhere in the van hidden, because I was looking in the house. I can't
Where the
find it.
candy used to be.
Yeah.
Bad
But
girl.
if I can't find it in the van, I'm going to have to buy another one. It'd be worth it to have an extra copy anyway, so I can give one to a friend like Mindy gave one to me. And I do a weight loss book club on Sundays. And I call it a weight loss book club for busy people. So we only do one chapter a week. And so it takes us a while to get through a book. We're in our third book right now, Salt, Sugar, and Fat by Michael Moss. But I have told my Anchor Moments community that the next book we're going to do is yours.
Oh, that's sweet. Do you read the book or do you just kind of go through it?
I read the book by myself at home.
Okay.
And then on Sundays, we do a deep dive just discussing what was in that chapter.
Oh, cool. I have a playlist on my channel that I read the book. I think I still probably owe that playlist the last couple of chapters, but I also wanted to make it so anybody who couldn't afford the book could consume the book and share the book. So there's a playlist on my channel. This is my promise to you that you guys record the rest of it.
Okay. Oh, that is good to know, Dave. I appreciate that. And I'll let, but I'm going to give them an opportunity to buy the book, your book too. And I have an Amazon store like you do where we just put our favorite things we found on Amazon. And Jeff today added your book to our favorite books list. So that way we can get people buying a copy of your book too and help out your family. Because you have what, 3 kids?
4.
4. Yeah, yep. So we need to support Dave and his 4 kids. We could buy a copy of your book, and
very kind of you.
And then your book doesn't take too long to read because it's
a quick read.
It's a quick read. So we'll probably do yours in 2 weeks. Maybe do the first half and then do the second half. Yeah. And would love to have you as a guest again on a Sunday. For the book club people and have them be able to ask you questions about your book too. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, I think I'm ready to write another one because there's a lot of things I would change about this one. You're doing the first one. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I think again, the idea was really, there's probably not going to be a ton in there for you if you are a endless consumer of GLP-1 content online. It's probably not going to be a lot that's novel or new to you. But it is a nice, quick, like I said, Cliff's Notes for somebody who doesn't know and doesn't understand. I have some friends who, they're like, I'm one of the phrases that I coined early on when I started making On the Pen videos was being a GLP-1 evangelist. It's like kind of consider myself the Billy Graham of GLP-1. I'm just waiting to be able to fill, football stadiums with people. And, but anyway, I wanted to be able to sort of equip other people who consider themselves GLP-1 evangelists in real life to be able to give these books out. And I've had people tell me, I buy them 10 copies at a time. And I'll have a conversation with somebody at work. And then the next day I'll just slip it under their door of their office or, do some people who are, bosses at their jobs will do like gift baskets for their employees who maybe are more fitness minded and they'll pass it along. And like, really, that's the heart of it. My heart of it is that like, if you buy a copy, if somebody's watching this and they buy a copy, first of all, thank you. If you buy it, the goal of it is not to make money. I'm not going to get rich off this. The goal is that you would read it and you would just pass it along because the heart behind GLP or On the Pen has always been that more people would just learn about these medications and more people would get help and that fewer people would feel so alone in their journey with the disease of obesity and type 2 diabetes. And you're not alone. And
right.
With obesity, we've been told our whole lives that it's all our fault. It's all, our poor decision making. And while I don't discount that there is, personal decisions that happen along the way with all of our health journeys, the reality is that obesity, the disease of obesity, is broken biology. It's things that aren't functioning properly. It's dysregulation with your hormones. It is an uphill battle that you are fighting against your own broken biology. And these medications aren't a cheat. They're not a shortcut. They are simply leveling the metabolic playing field to create an environment where you have a fighting chance to beat your obesity. Same with bariatric and metabolic surgeries. None of this should be seen as a cheat code out of obesity, and just something that's there to level the metabolic playing field so you have a chance to be your healthiest version of you. And so that's the heart behind literally everything we do. The book's no different than the podcast and the Substack. All of these things are designed. Yes, these things help me make a living. Yes, they help me feed my 4 children. So thank you all for those of you who support the work that I do, especially the 2 of you. But at the end of the day, the heartbeat behind what I do is just that more people would get help.
Exactly.
And they don't have to feel the shame.
Yes.
Exactly.
My YouTube channel, I know Anchor Moments doesn't sound anything like Mounjaro. Anchor Moments doesn't sound anything on healthy lifestyle or whatever. Anchor Moments. It's because when I started my channel in 2019, I had just finished writing my book, my first book, Anchor Moments, Hope, Healing, and Forgiveness. And my channel was giving people the opportunity to share the moments in their life that have anchored their faith. And that's what an anchor moment is. And then our second channel, Anchor Moments RV, is taking anchor moments on the road.
I love it.
So I have playlists where people share those goosebumpy moments in their life where they know that God is real and sees them. And then same time as you, Dave, fall of 2020, October 13th of 2020. I'll never forget the day because my daughter got married 4 days later. That's when I found out I had type 2 diabetes and my A1C was 10.2. And I had experienced my first and only, thank God. But I had some neuropathy in my feet that felt like an electrical fire while I was sitting in a chair. And I went, oh, crap, it's time for me to go see the doctor. And I hadn't had a well check in over 1.5 years because, COVID. So I didn't really want to be around germy people just to have a well check. And I'd know, I don't think I'm well anymore. Something is wrong. And this is terrible. And I don't want this to happen again. I got to find out what's going on. And I had crazy high blood sugar, crazy high A1C. And my first response was, Jeff, don't tell anybody. I'm going to tell you, don't tell my mom. Don't tell anybody. It's just only Dr. Gannon, you and me will know. No one else, because I just felt overwhelming shame. And I was, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. Yeah. And so I was morbidly obese and I just, I felt terrible about it. And then it struck me a little bit later. I did talk to one of my girlfriends from high school, and sure enough, she had type 2 diabetes for 20 years. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she's like, I don't like to talk about it. And I'm like, you never said anything about it. And then I started running into more friends, same thing. And so then I was like, okay, we got to stop having shame because of type 2 diabetes. And I needed to forgive myself, because that's what my book is about, is forgiveness. How to forgive yourself, how to forgive others, and how to ask for forgiveness when you've made a mistake. So I'm like, it's time. And so my first video was, it's on my channel still, and it's new to type 2 and feeling blue. Try this. And yeah, and it was about self-forgiveness, and I thought, I'm going to have a type 2 diabetes playlist. And the first time I put on my CGM, I was scared to death because that needle is huge. You look at it, oh gosh, I'm going to put that in my arm. It was very scary. And so I thought, well, if I'm this scared, I bet there's somebody else in the world that's scared to do it too. Oh, it looks, pretty big. When you first look at it, it looks very scary. But sure enough, didn't hurt. And I had Jeff tape me the first time doing it, and that video still gets hits every day.
Catheter and all.
Yeah, that time he didn't have a catheter.
He got it easy on that one.
Yeah, that was an easier one for him to tape. But that's what started my channel then being a lot of, most people, when they look at my channel, would think that it's all about type 2 diabetes and diabetes medication and healthy recipes and all that kind of stuff. But I still have my playlists where people share the moments in their life that have anchored their faith. Those playlists are still there. And I got a Christmas Carol sing along, which is fun too, a karaoke kind of thing that people can do at Christmas time.
Do you mind if I share an anchor moment?
I would love if you would. Please do.
So this is my it's more of an anchor era. But back in the fall of let me get my timing right on this. Yeah, it was probably actually the early winter of 2012. I was pumping gas at a new gas station that was near my work office, and I felt a sudden and unexplained urge to go see my dad. Never had it happen before, just felt at the time. For those of you who are believers, it just felt like a nudge from the Holy Spirit. For those of you who are not believers, then that's too much Christianese for you. It was just a really strong, sudden feeling that I needed to go see my dad. And it was really out of nowhere, no rhyme or reason to it. So I just listened to it, and I went and I spent some time with my dad that afternoon. I took a couple hours off of work, went, sat with him, and had a 2-hour long conversation that literally ranged everywhere from him believing that the Lord was about to come back to some things that were going on in our family that he had felt remorse for and guilt over. And it was just a very deep conversation. So it was all of that, all the way over to at the time I was working for an IT company, but I was learning marketing. And I told my dad, I'm learning some marketing stuff, some website stuff. I would love to, he did video work for a living. Like he would record and edit together commercials, TV commercials and things like that. He did it for about 25 years. I said, I want to bring in an element to your business where we do a little bit more with web design and maybe web videos and things like that. And he goes, well, let's do it. And I'll have you come over once or twice a week. We'll work together. And I was like, all right, well, I better get back to work so I don't lose my job that I have now. So I go to leave. I'm sliding the glass door shut, and he goes, don't forget this conversation, boy. And I said, I won't. We'll do this. We'll do it. 2 days later, I got a call from a guy. My dad and my mom were separated at the time. He had a friend who was a severe alcoholic, who had lost everything. And so he had moved in with him, and the two of them were on their way to church that morning. And my dad had a sudden massive heart attack. And it was the guy on the phone from my dad's cell phone saying, hey, your dad's in the back of an ambulance. It doesn't look good. You need to get home. Long story short, my dad spent 9 days in the ICU, passed away. So the last conversation that I had with him was the one I just shared with you, where he said, don't forget this conversation, boy. And I never have forgotten that. He died on November 27th of 2012. Over the course of that following year, I felt like the Lord was telling me, Dave, you're just supposed to start what you and your dad were going to do. You don't need your dad here for that. I've given you everything you need to do that. So I took that to heart, got my laptop out every night. I was working by that time I transitioned out of the IT job. A sales job was too much for me after the loss of my father. So I went and I was managing at a Hy-Vee, which is a local, well, you're in the Midwest. So
I've been to Hy-Vee.
I managed at a Hy-Vee. And at night I would come home and I would spend hours on my laptop teaching myself Photoshop and web design and all that. And I launched my own little business called Knapp Media. Not by my intention, but 1 year to the day that I lost my father. And then miraculously 1 year later, that same week, now he's in the hospital for 9 days. So that 17th or 18th to the 27th, whatever it was, is just a heavy week for us. But 1 year later, my wife gave birth to our first son. And so my dad died that week. 1 year later, we launched my little business called Nat Media. 1 year later, we had our first child. And none of that was planned. But I feel like the Lord does those things where they're little, I call them little winks from heaven. They're things that we on this earth in our own power and our own might. But it's just like God saying, hey, I'm here. And I believe that God is a God of order, and I believe that those things are significant. And so that period of my life has always been a very foundational part of my faith as an adult, just knowing that no matter what we go through, that God is orchestrating all things. I just had a conversation with my own kids tonight. Today was their first day of school. And so a couple of them were a little frustrated about the teachers that they had. My teacher's going to be really strict, and I just, reminded them, I said, hey, sometimes God does things in our life and puts things into our life, diabetes, obesity, cancer, that a teacher that we think is too strict. And he puts these things in our life, and these aren't things that we want, but we have to trust that these are the things that God wants for us, and that in that experience that God is teaching us something and molding us into who he wants us to be, into his character, and into somebody who is more like he is. And so that experience for me was definitely just God showing his hand in a very difficult time in my life, and something that's been foundational to how I try to parent my own children. So I love that you share these anchor moments, and that would be one of my big ones.
That is.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for sharing
that,
Dave. And I totally get where God can give you signs for direction, and we still have free will, so we can say no and try to do our own thing. But he does try to put people on your path, and signs on your path, and help on your path for you. And I used to call anchor moments God winks, and I read the God wink book. Kirshner, I think is his name.
I don't remember.
I don't know. There's a guy who's written a bunch of those God wink books, and I loved those. And so I used to call them God winks. Sorry, we have a weird pop-up. Jeff's getting rid of it. There it is. Okay, now I can see you again. And I was a school teacher, and I taught school for 11 years. And then I did the stay-at-home mom thing. And then when the kids were a little bit older, I started working part-time at the YMCA, and I loved it. And I loved that job, but I only made minimum wage. It wasn't paying the bills for sure. And I had one kid in college and one kid getting ready for college. And I knew I can't do this anymore. I have to do something where I paid full time and do a full-time job. And I'd asked the Y if there was any full-time jobs, I would take it. But they didn't have anything available. And so I asked God, I said, God, for the first time in my life, I'm going to follow your will instead of mine. But here's the thing. You know how smart I am. I'm not that smart. You got to make the signs big. But I promise you, if you make the signs really, really big, I'll follow them. And I'll do whatever it is that you think I should do. And I won't second guess it. I will do whatever you say, but you got to make the signs big so I can know what to do. And then it was amazing. A lot of people say to have a test, you need a testimony, or to have a testimony, you need a test. Well, I was putting together, and I used to put it together, an interfaith prayer breakfast every year was part of my job at the Y. And I put on, it was amazing. The mayor of Chandler and the mayor of Gilbert are at it. And then there's always somebody famous. We had a famous baseball player, an Arizona Diamondback player, tell his testimony. And so he was on there too. And
curious who it was. Do you remember?
We got his baseball signed over there. It's that baseball on the.
It's a minor detail, but I am a baseball fan.
Okay. He ended up hurting his hand And Nick was his first name. Oh shoot. Here's his.
And he was a Arizona Diamondback.
He was Arizona Diamondback, and it was in 2015. He was an Arizona and he was the shortstop, I believe. I think he was the shortstop in 2015 for the Arizona Diamondbacks. What was his last name?
I can't
That's
even
hard
read
to
his
tell
first
that. Shoot.
It has a 13 by his name, so maybe that's his number.
Okay.
Oh yeah, would the 13 be his number? Nick, gosh, what was his last name?
Do baseball players have numbers on their shirts?
Yeah. We're not. Jeff just asked if baseball players have numbers on their shirts. We don't watch a lot of sports. He's a Star Trek, Star Wars kind of guy, more sci-fi. But anyway, I was in charge of putting on this big event, and I put it on every year with different speakers. Nick Ahmed.
Okay, awesome.
And something happened at that prayer breakfast where I was supposed to be a speaker, because I'm always a speaker. When you chair, you get to speak. And they were afraid that they had too many speakers, and it was going to run over. And so they had to take my talk out. And I had a Holocaust survivor set to give the prayer for world peace, because it's an interfaith prayer breakfast, of all faiths. And the week before the prayer breakfast, and here I'd been going all over town saying, we got Nick Ahmed, from the Diamondbacks, he's going to talk. And we've got, he was number 12, not number 13. No, I can't see because I don't have glasses on.
Nick Ahmed wore number 13 for the Arizona Diamondbacks during his time.
Okay.
Starting shortstop.
Yep. So he was a shortstop. See, I remembered he was a shortstop.
Good memory.
Yeah. He had a great story too. Oh my gosh, he was amazing. But so I was telling people about Nick Ahmed being there and this wonderful Holocaust survivor to give us the prayer for world peace. And then a week beforehand, his daughter, who was in her 60s, broke her hip. And he couldn't go for the Holocaust survivor's daughter broke her hip, and he couldn't speak. And so we had to try to find another Holocaust survivor. There's not very many of them, because, yeah. And we couldn't find anybody, but someone at the Jewish Center told us, all right, I'm a second generation Holocaust survivor. If you want, I could do it for you. Because she was the one who hooked us up with the first guy who couldn't come. And she tried really hard, but she couldn't find anyone else for us. But so she said she would be our backup. And I had somebody videotape her, and her story, oh my gosh, was amazing. But remember, there's not very much time. By the time she was gonna do that, it was 2 days before the event. And so she spoke to a videographer that we had that was volunteering their time, and they created this amazing video, taking her story and doing a lot of editing. So it'd just be a couple minutes long. And we were going to play that before she walked on the stage.
Oh, okay.
And they did not get it done till 10:30 at night. And the prayer breakfast was at 7 the next morning.
Oh, wow.
And when I saw her that next, in the morning, she was really scared. And she said, Gina, I don't speak in front of big audiences. And I've never told the story of my parents before. And they used to give talks, but they have recently passed away. And I told her, the media company that did your thing, I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. And don't worry, you're going to do a great job with your talk. So she sat next to me. We had 2 tables of speakers, and one table had all the famous people at it. And my boss sat at that table. And then I sat at the table with all the faith leaders that were giving prayers. And I sat right next to that sweet woman. that was going to give the prayer for world peace. And hers was supposed to go last. And when I was told the day before that I couldn't speak at this event, they said, Gina, we're afraid we're going to go 20 minutes over. So there really is no time for you to talk. And I'd had my speech all written out and was handing it in to my boss. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry, Gina, but we're going to have to take you out of the program because there's not going to be enough time. And he said it in front of another staff member when I had handed it to him. And my speech had two little pieces. So the morning of the event, and this was the day before, the morning of the event, I said, hey, I talked to my boss and I said, if I could start the prayer breakfast 5 minutes early and get people to sit down, can I tell this it's just a little 1 minute story and about my mother-in-law?
What? You can do a story in 1 minute?
And our theme that year was spread joy for the prayer breakfast. It was spread joy. And I wanted to tell them why we got the theme spread joy. And so, and that's what I used to be able to do as the chair, is why we came up with whatever theme. And so and he said, okay. So we started 5 minutes early. I got everybody to sit down with my teacher voice. They all did, they all sat down real quick. They got quiet real quick. And I welcomed them and I told them that my mother-in-law, when she was really sick, before she passed away, she told me, Gina, I can't do things for people anymore, but I can still do one thing. And I said, what's that, Marilyn? And she said, I can smile. And when I go to the grocery store, I always smile at the clerk. And when I'm in the hospital, I smile at all my doctors and nurses, because maybe that's the only smile they'll see that day. And so anyway, thank you all for coming. We've got a great show for you today. And our theme this year is spread joy.
You know what? I think you should leave the rest of that story for if somebody, don't give it away, because then they can read about it in the book. And we do have a lot of questions.
Well, that's true.
Sitting
all right. But I just want to say,
I'm dying to hear the rest of the story.
At this prayer breakfast, that was life-changing. Well, no, I got to finish this part because they're still going to be confused and it's not in the book.
I'm sorry.
This is not in the book.
Okay.
So the prayer breakfast goes lickety-split. I mean, everybody's talk was like a minute or two shorter than they were originally going to do. Nice. And it just goes like clockwork. It's just amazing. We, instead of being going to run over, it looks like we might even be a little bit under because everything's just going so quick. And then it's the last prayer. And it is my friend who's a second-generation Holocaust survivor. And they play the video. And the video, she's sharing how when she was in second grade, she had gone to some birthday parties and she came home from one and said, Mom, how come when I go to my friends' birthday parties, they have a bunch of family there? They have like cousins and stuff. How come we don't have a very big family? And then the next year, when she was in third grade, she came home and her mom was ironing and watching the TV. And the Holocaust series was on TV that year. And her mom kept staring at the TV while she was ironing. And she asked her mom, Mom, what are you staring at? And she said, I'm trying to see if any of our family's on this. And then it goes dark. And she turned and looked at me and she had tears in her eyes and she was like, And I took her hand. I said, you're going to do just fine. She's like, okay. And she goes up on the stage and she has a prayer for world peace in her hand. And she was supposed to speak for 10 minutes. Everybody else was 5 minutes, and the baseball player had 20 minutes as the keynote. But she was the secondary keynote, so she had a longer time to talk. And so she had 10 minutes, and she went up to the microphone, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I am so sorry. I didn't get a chance to preview this video, and my parents have recently passed away, and it really has touched my heart. I'm glad I wrote the prayer down. I'm going to read it to you first in Hebrew and then in English. And then she said something, 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 world peace. And she got off the stage. The stage was empty, just a microphone.
And what was the theme?
The theme was spread joy. And there was not a dry eye in the place. Everybody had tears in their eyes. It was so horrifically sad. And I was not sitting at the table with my boss. I was sitting at a table with the other prayer leaders and not with the mayors and the baseball player and that kind of stuff. And I saw that empty stage and that empty microphone. And I looked at my watch. And when I was told the night before that I couldn't speak because we were going to go 20 minutes over, we were 20 minutes under, exactly 20 minutes under. And I looked up to God and I said, okay, I know what you want me to do. So I went up on the stage and I said, I need to let you know why we chose Spread Joy for the prayer breakfast. Before our first prayer breakfast planning committee meeting, I had had a dream about my friend Gerda Weissman-Klein, who is a Holocaust survivor. And when I woke up, my husband and I were having pillow talk, and Jeff said, hey, Gina, you should have the theme for this year's prayer breakfast be Spread Joy. And I was like, Spread Joy? Oh, well, I don't think we can this year because it's my dream to have a Holocaust survivor give us a prayer for world peace. And the Holocaust was horrible, so that wouldn't be an appropriate theme. But why do you say that? What made you? Why did you come up with that? And he said, well, I was reading in the Catholic Daily
Readings for the
day. And it was talking about, spreading joy. And then he read me the reading, and the reading was about if you knew in advance that the thief was coming, what would you do with your treasure? And I need to share with you the story of Gerda Weissman-Klein, because I looked at Jeff and went, the theme of the prayer breakfast has got to be Spread Joy. Because Gerda Weissman-Klein, she used to speak to schools and all over the place about the Holocaust. And one of the stories she told is she was on a death march, her and one of her friends, and they were starving. And they were just marching them for miles and miles and miles. And her friend saw a raspberry bush along the trail, and it had 2 raspberries on it. And so when the guards weren't looking, she took 2 of those raspberries and put it in her pocket. And those raspberries bounced around in her pocket all day long. Then at night, when the guards weren't looking, she took Gerda aside and she put the 2 little raspberries on a leaf in her hand and handed it to Gerda. And she said, Gerda, I know you are the lucky one. I know that you will survive. I want you to have these raspberries. And Gerda said when she put those raspberries on her tongue, it brought such joy to her that it just joy radiated throughout her whole body. Even her toes were tingling with joy that her friend would give her only possession to her as a gift. And then I told everyone in the audience, you can all choose to spread joy. Spreading joy is a choice. And then I thanked everybody for coming. And then I had my boss come up and do the saying goodbyes and talking about the baseball and hats that people could buy with a donation or whatever that Nick Ahmed had signed. And that ended the prayer breakfast. When I got off the stage, this woman who I never met before, Christine Ellis, jumps out of the crowd, gives me the biggest bear hug, almost knocks the air out of me. And she said, "This is the best prayer breakfast I've ever been to. I want to join your prayer breakfast planning committee." And I said, "Okay, Christine," or I didn't know what her name was. And she handed me her business card. Her business card said Christine Ellis, Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network. She joined my planning committee, which isn't in the book. She joined my planning committee, and she had an international Christian show. And this isn't in the book. This is an after the story, because this happened after I wrote my book. So while she was on my planning committee, she told me, "Gina, one day you need to be on my Christian show." And I told her, "Oh, I don't know, maybe someday," but I just didn't know what I would say. After that, after I spoke at that prayer breakfast and told about Gerda Weissman Klein, Jeff's boss, who ended up being the superintendent of Chandler Schools, Frank Narducci, told Jeff, "Gina needs to be a professional speaker. You need to help her do that. She needs to be a professional speaker. She would be fantastic." And when Jeff told me that, that really touched my heart. And someone else who's famous and has a book out, and she's an international speaker, they call her Coach Darlene Santor, and she's a life coach of professional sports players. And she was our MC. And I called up Darlene and I said, "Okay, Coach Dar, how do you become a professional speaker?" And she said, "Gina, you have to write your stories down." And she said, "And once you do, if you want, you can share them with me. But that's where you first start." So I was like, okay. So I had Jeff create a website for me, anchormoments.com, so I'd have a place to put some blog things. And then remember when you said you had this feeling in your chest, you knew you had to see your dad. And it was weird. You didn't have that feeling the day before. You didn't have it feeling a week before. But it was so strong. You knew it was urgent and you needed to see your dad right there.
Yep.
I've had that feeling. I started writing my blog, and then someone reached out to me from the YMCA that was doing a Seize the Day, Raise the Sea in YMCA conference in Florida. And we live in Arizona, and we didn't have any money then. I was a stay-at-home mom of a school teacher, who also had been a school teacher. So we had no additional monies. It was a miracle every week that we paid our bills. It really was. And it was $2,000 to go. And my Y wouldn't send me. But I felt like I was being pulled into the computer. Like it was life or death for me to go to that conference. And when I got up on the stage and I spoke, and I wasn't supposed to speak, and I was taken off the menu, there were some people at work that were mad at me. They felt like I hijacked the mic and I shouldn't have spoke. And and it really broke my heart. And but I had to go to that conference, and my Y wasn't going to be able to pay $2,000 for me to go, so I had to fundraise that $1,000. And I'd had a blow up with somebody at work, and I had to pray to God to please help me be a more forgiving person. Mm. That I write about in the book, what happened and how all that came, what happened from there. Mm. But after my book came out and I finished writing my book, Christine Ellis was like, all right, Gina, you absolutely have to be on my show now, and I'll let you plug your book. So I said, okay. So 2 weeks after I had my Anchor Moments, Hope, Healing, and Forgiveness book, where I share more of the stories, I'm not going to do the whole long thing, but get you into where this happened and what happened at that. Oh my gosh. And the steps to get there and going there changed my life forever. Mm. And it started Anchor Moments. And when my book was published, two weeks afterwards, I was on Christine Ellis's show. And when the show was over, the station owners were in the audience, and they said, Gina, we want to give you your own show. We've been playing, we have 100 broadcasters. They're all Protestants of various flavors, but we do not have anybody who's Catholic, and we know Catholics are Christians too, and we'd like to give you a show. And I signed a 1-year contract on Good Friday the next day. Wow. And I was on that show for a solid year. And that's what started Anchor Moments. And you can see those shows because I had asked them before COVID hit. They put them everywhere, but they didn't have them on YouTube. And I told them that, that Jeff and I had a dream one day that we'd get an RV and we'd travel around the country and maybe speak at churches and share Anchor Moment stories. And so anyway, I asked them if they would give me my shows to put on my YouTube channel, and they did. And so I do have an HSBN playlist with 34 shows that I did in a year. And then the year ended when COVID hit. Mm. And then during COVID, I started doing Zoom calls. Instead of using StreamYard, I was doing Zoom. And I was able to have wonderful guests from around the country that had spoken at the Y Prayer Breakfast and some of the other things that I chaired. In my volunteer life.
There weren't a lot of advantages to having everybody go through COVID, but one of the things it made it possible for doing things like Zoom, where you can do interviews with people all across the world even.
Yeah.
And everybody had time.
Yeah.
And the world was a captive audience.
Exactly. But that's what changed the direction of my life. And I was able to follow the guidance and the steps, because God made the signs huge for me. Yeah. And all those different signs are in the book. And I learned during that time how to forgive others, how to forgive myself, and how to ask for forgiveness when I've messed up.
That's amazing.
And that's what's in my Anchor Moments book.
I love all that.
You didn't give the ending away.
I didn't give the ending away, but I told you something that's not in the book, because when I wrote the book, I didn't know that 2 weeks later I'd be offered my own TV show.
That's wild. That is wild.
Yeah.
I can't wait to check it out.
Thanks.
I did not know that part of your story. That's amazing.
All right. Well, let's see what questions we have from our audience today. And I'm going to need glasses, Jeff, because I can't read any of this stuff. Oh, okay.
Give me a second.
All right. Hey, we got Jennifer in the house. Jennifer, Nebraska says, hi, y'all. I'm here for Dave, waiting for the interview. We're glad you came. And Grant says, hey there, I have one question. Ever since I started Mounjaro, it seems like anytime I eat something sweet, now my glucose level bottoms out instead of raising. Is that something anyone else ever has? Got an answer for that, Dave-a-roo?
Yeah. So it's interesting that he says that. Mine tends to do the same thing. It's I shared earlier that my blood glucose has been behaving differently lately, but it tends to, I don't know. It does raise a little bit, but then it's like it overcorrects almost, where, it'll raise a little bit, but then it goes way down into like the 60s, instead of, kind of having more of like a camel hump, right? That would be more of a normal response, but having that kind of boo and bottoming out. I've definitely had that happen. I don't eat sugar, typically. So sugar is something I usually try to avoid, but when I do notice that my body's not used to it. And there's definitely almost like it just over responds with the insulin.
Yeah. I can understand that too. It's we have a better insulin response now, but if you're already not really high, it can bring you low.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best ways that I hear these drugs referred to is as NUSH, NUSH for NU for nutrient, and SH for stimulated hormone. And so, really, what GLP-1 and GIP are is they're just nutrient stimulated hormones. Your body has got probably some broken signaling if you're type 2 diabetic. There's a lot of science behind it, but you have an overabundance of something called DPP4, which destroys your natural endogenous GLP-1 and GIP. So your body, if you're type 2 diabetic, is not used to getting that signaling properly. So enter Mounjaro, especially when you're like first starting or you're dosing up, and you get this increase in sort of efficacy of the drug because you're taking more of it. Your body's almost like, whoa, hey, what is this signaling? I'm not used to receiving this appropriately. And so one of the things that these nutrient stimulated hormones do is they stimulate the beta cells in your pancreas to release insulin. And so there is likely, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, but there's likely, because your body has not been used to the proper signaling, you insert these analog versions, which are very potent and very powerful. It's like your pancreas goes, whoa. And I believe that there's probably just sort of like an overcorrection, like almost just like a too much of an insulin release. Hopefully with the situation that Grant laid out there's a pretty quick correction back, because then what's going to happen is the body is an amazing thing, and your body will sense that your glucose is going low, and so your liver produces some more to bring it back up.
Yep. That was a fantastic answer. I totally agree. And Barb says, health at any cost. At Grant, the medications work specifically on the liver and pancreas to lower the blood sugar, blood glucose. So it makes sense. The cure: don't eat anything sweet.
There you go.
And for me, is if I'm eating sweet, I also have to have protein and fat with it. I can't do sweet by itself. That it's a problem.
To kind of even it out.
Yes. And Sandra says, hello, everyone. I'm sorting contains while listening tonight. Sorting. Oh, she's
containers.
Yeah. While she's listening tonight. She's doing something while listening to us. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for joining us today. And Deb Zinnerman's in the house. Woohoo. And Paul Bryant, he says, yes, I experience low blood sugar more now while taking Mounjaro. And that's why I like to wear a CGM, because it has an alarm that goes off if you're too low.
One of the things that I would add, curious if you have the same issue, Gina. I feel like the continuous glucose monitors are a bit sensitive to that low blood sugar. I'm sure it's by design. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll get that alert that says your blood sugar is going low, maybe something in the 60s, or even maybe 59, but then when I go back and I look at the little chart, that'll tell you sort of the historical data, it'll show you it never really actually got that low. I don't know.
It's a compression low.
What's that?
So it's a compression low. So it's a fake low. And I get those. And I've talked about that on the channel too. So if it happens to someone else, they'll understand. I only put it on my left arm instead of my right arm because I'm a side sleeper and I sleep on my right arm the most. But if I roll over in the middle of the night, sometimes sleeping on my left arm, it makes that horrible alarm go off like I'm dying, and wakes me up. It wakes
And
Jeff
it
up.
wakes me up.
Yeah, and so Jeff's running to the refrigerator to get my Fairlife chocolate milk, to pour me some of that to drink to try to bring me back up again. And then I have to tell him, wait.
Now,
Let me just sit up for a minute.
She says, wait, don't do it. And I'm going in my head, oh yeah, I'm going to explain to your mom and dad how, no, it wasn't. We thought it wasn't real.
Yeah,
oh,
and then
sorry,
she died.
Sorry.
So he brings me food anyway, He brings me like the chocolate milk.
I'm going to bring it.
And it has something.
Especially since now you're on record on video saying that you're annoyed by being woken up by it.
Yes.
Well, it is annoying.
Let's go to the tape.
It scares the death out of you, like, it's like a fire alarm going on.
Yeah.
And then most of the time, I'll tell them, well, I feel like I'm okay, and then I'll sit up and I'll make sure that I don't have my arm against my side. So it gives a chance for the compression to stop happening. And then I'll test myself. Yeah, hasn't done it for a while.
I think it's because you're careful to sleep on your other side.
Yeah, I try really hard to sleep either on my back or on my right side and not on my left side. But yeah, and sometimes it'll happen to me if I'm in a chair and I'm getting up from the chair, but I have my arm too close to my body. If I might be pushing up and my arm would just happen to push against to my side, and then it'll send that alarm off when really I'm not low. It's a compression low. So I wait a few minutes and then recheck, and usually it bounces up and then it erases it like that event never happened. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Let's see.
You got to click.
And Jennifer says hi to everybody. And Deb's in the house saying hi to everyone too. And so is Barb. And Mindy says, Grant, yes, it's called reactive hypoglycemia. Try pairing sweets with some protein. Yeah, if you're going to do that, yep, some protein, maybe fat and fiber. That's why dessert's supposed to come after your meal, right. And not as a meal, because it's not as bad. But if you do that pure sugar without it, you'll be like me in the van, like a squirrel trying to find your next hit. Oh gosh!
You didn't find it, did you?
No, I didn't. He hit it really well. And Barb says Mindy's more strategic. And let's see, and there's Dave. And please check out Dave. If you've never seen Dave before, seeing him here on Anchor Moments, you definitely need to check out his YouTube channel because he is on top of everything GLP-1 and all the new stuff coming out too.
onthepen.com, is that correct?
Yep, that's the website, onthepen.com, or you can type in obesity.news. That'll take you to my Substack, which is where I write the majority of my articles.
Okay.
But definitely check his stuff out. And Pammy says, yay, hi friends, I got notified about the live. That's great. Yeah, if you ring the bell and then and then once you ring the bell, it gives you an opportunity to say if you want all notifications. Excuse me. And if you do that, you'll get a notification usually. And we got Sue YouTube here saying hi, folks. Hi, Sue. All right. And what did I just do? I don't know. Here we go. And Laura's in the house. Why is it not? Here. It went up too high.
Jiminy.
Where did it all go?
Try again.
Sorry, we lost our spot. And
I'm trying to find it.
There it is. There it is. So it's Laura right here. Dave is the man. I agree, Laura. Now, Pammy. Hi, Dave. So excited to have you on here. Yeah. They're all saying hi to everybody. Yay. Deb in the house. Hey, we got Kay in the house. Determined 34. Hi, everyone. Sun is shining in Sydney. after weeks of rain and cold winter weather. Oh, it's hot here, but it is still storming. It's still I can hear the rain on the skylights. It's kind of storming here, but it's hot. Hot.
Wheel, Gina.
Okay.
There we go.
And we got Juanita in the house. Good evening, everyone. Jeff and Gina, I just love your love for each other. Oh, thanks, Juanita. Appreciate that. And Pammy says, wow, thunderstorm. We had flood warning in nearby mountains here in California, too. Oh, my goodness. Oh, thanks, Deb. Deb's reminding everybody to hit the like for us. And Pammy says, our friend got type 2 diabetes really bad after 2 of 3 COVID episodes. You know, I had a friend that wasn't diabetic, and he ended up getting type 1 diabetes from his COVID and ended up in the hospital and left with severe diabetes. And Mindy says, so exciting to see Dave on the show. He and his book have helped me so much. I think maybe I gave Gina that copy she showed. I bought 10 copies so far and passed them out whenever someone is GLP-1 curious. Yep, and you gave me my copy. So thank you so much, Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy.
And Sandra says the audio's good. And so does Pam. And she says we can hear it, but it's not very loud.
There's the rain.
Yeah.
I had asked about.
Okay. And Leah's in the house and says, no trouble hearing. Can't hear the storm. Oh, good, because it was loud over here. And Naturalisa said we sounded fine. And Pammy's reminding everyone to hit the thumbs up. And Jennifer said, I liked Amy's channel. Dang it. Do you think Amy will ever come back, Dave?
I don't know. I think Amy moved on to her own like little platform. I think people that really enjoyed her content stuck with her on Patreon, and I think she has maybe a website. I can't remember what it is, but if you look up, like, just do a Google search for like Amy 2.0 or Amy Danae, Danae. I think you can still find her. I think she still makes content, just not on YouTube. I think she started a new YouTube at one point, but I don't know if it's still there. I think they warned her, like, you better not start another YouTube channel.
Oh, good grief.
I don't understand. I to this day, I don't understand what happened, because she couldn't have been sweeter or kinder, or I feel like more careful with what she said. I really don't know what happened to her. It was definitely not fair.
That isn't fair at all.
And you want to read that one?
I'm sorry. And Pammy said the first creator that she watched was Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of my first ones I watched too. And Laura says, my doctor is great, but my insurance won't cover it anymore. Oh, man.
Bummer for Laura.
Yeah. And Grant says, so is your podcast also on YouTube, Dave?
Yes, it is. You can watch, you can get the podcast wherever you get your podcast, but if you want the video version, they're always uploaded here to YouTube.
Awesome.
Yep.
Grant, super sticker. And Sue for YouTube says, I remember that nervous feeling. Yes. Before that first time before giving yourself your shot. Hey, and Sandy gave us a super chat. Thank you so much, Sandy. And she said, almost missed this live. Hi, everyone. Thanks for all three of you do for this community. Oh,
Sandy,
thank you so much, Sandy.
Do you know how many sweet Smarties Gina will be able to buy with $19.99? A lot of Smarties. Jeff will never be able to hide them. There'll be nowhere to put them.
I think that candy shop does online orders.
Oh my gosh. And Grant says, yes, thankful I found Anchor Moments. I'm one that it helps so much. Oh, I'm so glad, Grant. And Grant did a great interview with me a couple weeks ago. It was so good. And Jennifer says, I lost 90 pounds, then have been in a stall for the past 15 months. At least I've kept it off. I feel better and healthier. I am with you, Jennifer. And 90 pounds is wonderful. And to be able to keep it off for that long, fabulous. But I hear you when you still want to lose more, even though you're on a stall, because I'm right there with you. And Sue's giving you a woohoo. And Grant says, have you ever had heart palpitations while on Mounjaro, Dave?
I have. One of the things that has given me heart palpitations my whole life is when I eat keto. It's like
When
that
you what?
switching
Eat
the
keto.
carbohydrates on and off. Always gives me heart palpitations, and so I think there's something about being in a ketogenic state that my heart does that. And so if I'm definitely like, if the appetite suppression is working really well and I just haven't eaten very much that day, I know that I can expect I'll probably get some. A lot of times what my doctor has told me is a lot of times those heart palpitations are going to be caused by an electrolyte imbalance. And so it makes sense. If you're going into a ketogenic state, you're depleting your glycogen stores, you're losing some of the electrolytes along with that as your body's sort of shedding water weight. So it's important to not only replenish the water and drink lots of water. There's lots of advice out there that says drink lots of water while you're on these medications, but it's so important to replace the electrolytes as well. But it's also so important to pull your doctor into that, because with electrolytes comes sodium. So if you're on blood pressure medication, if you're on, it's not like these are something that you just want to take willy-nilly. You want to take the appropriate amounts of the appropriate things, but talk to your doctor about replacing electrolytes if you're having heart palpitations, especially with weight loss.
And you can ask your doctor, how many ounces of water should you be having a day? Because it varies a little bit with how much you weigh and stuff too. Because I've mentioned that as well, that too much of a good thing can also be a bad thing. And you don't, if you drink 5 gallons of water, you're going to wash away all your minerals in a day. So you don't want to do that. So too much is bad, but not enough isn't good either.
5 gallons of water in a day?
Oh, there are people. There are people, and it can get sick. Also,
did you say 5 gallons of water?
Yes. Yeah, it can kill you. You don't want to do that.
Are these camels?
Yeah, it's bad for you. I do not recommend it. Bad. Now, Grant says he's starting to experience some heart palpitations. There's something else that I want to mention here too. I have a family member who's not on Mounjaro, but that family member battles constipation and always tries to stay ahead of it. And he started taking magnesium to help with constipation. And so he was pooping just fine, but he had some kind of a heart event that sent him to the ER. And when he was at the hospital, the doctors were able to figure out what was wrong with him, is he had too much magnesium. And too much magnesium was given, I don't know if it was heart palpitations, skipping beats or something, but this particular relative knows a lot about medicine and things. And so for him to go to the hospital, it was a big deal. And it was the magnesium. So he doesn't do magnesium anymore.
So even over-the-counter kind of things, need to talk about those with your doctor.
Your supplements,
with your pharmacist.
When I go to the doctor, I always bring whatever vitamins I'm taking, those kinds of things. I have them in a bag with me. And so when I talk about what medications I'm taking, I also show them what supplements I'm taking, because sometimes those can be too much of a good thing too, and then end up being a bad thing. But I was going to do magnesium, and this family member said, oh, absolutely, you got to be careful with that, Gina. And then talked to me about fiber gummies, and he does fiber gummies instead.
So just because it's over the counter doesn't mean you don't have to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah. So be checking into those kind of things as well. And if you're having some different heart issues, I highly recommend, Grant, that you let your doctor know tomorrow. Just even, if you can give them a little phone call or whatever, because, we don't want to lose you ever. And you don't want to have a bad event and then that's it. And Pammy says, I wish everyone could have the same experience. Mounjaro is my lifesaver, along with the rest of the changes, of course. Now I'm 2.5 weeks post-op from hernia, and
fleur-de-lis.
Yep, she had her
paniculectomy.
Yeah, the extra skin in her stomach taken off. when they did her hernia. She had 2 different surgeons at the same time.
Wow.
And her nerves are refiring this week. Oh my goodness. And Pam said she would be willing to do a show with us too, live here at some point, to be able to talk about her experience. But I'm going to keep prayers out there for you, Pam, because I do hear that it can be very painful, the recovery of having skin removal surgery. And Pam says, I can finally see a flat tummy that I've never had in my lifetime.
Wow.
I've always had the lower belly pooch, even in 4th or 5th grade. Wow. And Sue says, Grant, I personally have never heard of palpitations associated with GLP-1s. So yeah, it could be something else. You know, we're all getting older too. And there's other reasons that can happen. And all the years that we were obese, even when we're not obese anymore, it can affect your arteries and all that kind of stuff too. And Jennifer says, congratulations, Pammy, no more apron belly, yay. And Pammy says, I also had gastric bypass around the same time as Barb, and hospitals next to each other 25 years ago. Oh my gosh, small world. And Pammy says, thank you, Jennifer. Yes, no more apron belly. And Barb says, I'm still amazed at that, Pammy. Yeah, that they were right next to each other. And Pammy says, me too, Barb. It's a small world. Absolutely. And I've had Pam on my show before too. She lost over 160 pounds, and Barb, Health at Any Cost, I don't know, like 280 some pounds. I mean, they are amazing super responders. And I'm so glad that they were willing to come on my show.
You didn't read that one.
Oops.
Are you just going to
And Pammy says, I've often wondered if being a bariatric gastric bypass anatomy helped me this time with Mounjaro too, because my friends without having bariatric regain have definitely had different paths with stalls. You know, I've heard that from different people who've had gastric bypass, that they still had food noise. There was just less place to put the place to put the food is smaller, but they still had food noise. And when later they were able to take Mounjaro or Zepbound, it was like night and day, so much easier, because it finally stopped the food noise with the hunger. Pammy says, funny you say that same thing with our friend who got type 2 diabetes after COVID. He struggled with losing even on an Ozempic and Mounjaro. He stopped drinking alcohol. He dropped the weight.
Interesting.
There you go. So that's happened to more people, that skipping the alcohol makes a difference.
I didn't know.
And Pammy says, and he's going off his diabetic meds next month. Wow.
Wow.
I did the thing. I scrolled too high. I'll let you do it. There, right there.
There we go.
Right. He was about a nightly drink. He's not a sweets eater either. More vegetarian and fruit. But yeah, but there is a lot of carbs in alcohol. And Jennifer says, I'm a carb sugar addict. Hubby keeps his stash at work, or else I'm after it. I can relate to that, Jennifer.
I used to keep a stash around the house, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, I used to make sure that he hid it from me because I didn't want to know.
It was funny. She bought candy one time for her, and she didn't want me to see it. She put it on top of the fridge, but I'm taller than her. And I get home right at eye level. I'm looking right at candy.
Yeah, and he picked it off the refrigerator, opened it, and ate it. I was like, hey, that was my candy bar.
This is a long
I was
time
hiding
ago.
it from my kids.
Just if you're trying to find a good stash, consider the other person's height.
Oh,
Or
my God.
lower.
And Jennifer says, we're missing a few likes. Hit that thumbs up. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Oh, man, I've still gotten those cravings. Once I have sugar, it makes me crave more. Yep. So, yeah, sugar is they're still not really our friend. And Kay, Determined 34, says, interestingly, when I first searched for Mounjaro information, Gina's anchor moments is what the algorithm gave me. Wonder if it's gender biased. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, Kay, but I'm glad you found me.
I will say that YouTube generally serves up content that it thinks you will like based upon other things that you've followed. So if you follow a lot of female creators, then it's highly likely that you will get other female creators served up to you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And Mindy saying, hey, Sue the dude. And Sue says, hey, Mindy, hope you are all well. Pammy says, now there's more stories about how friends are making comments like, she's taking it too far and looks sickly now. Her eyes are looking sunk in. She needs to stop taking those shots. Oh, dear. Well, what they don't realize is that taking the shots, number one, they're not used to you looking skinny. You know, they're used to you being very plump. And when you're not plump anymore, it kind of confuses them because you don't look the way that they're used to you looking. And number two, for most of us, this is a medication we'd want to take forever because it's going to control that hunger. And there's a lot of people, when they go off the medication, their hunger comes back, the food noise comes back, and they might start gaining their weight back too. But if somebody is at their goal weight and they still can't, and they are having a hard time eating, then they can talk with their doctor and maybe go down a dose so they're not taking as much medication, but still taking some, at least a little bit.
Maybe they need to get your book, Dave.
Yeah, and share your book with their friends.
Yeah, it sounds like the perfect opportunity to share it.
Oh, and let's see, Journey of Life's in the house. Yay. And she says, I'm here supporting with a listening ear. I'm about to drive, but I love this. Aw, thank you, Journey of Life. And Pammy says, I would love it, Dave, if you could include some research. There might only be one about maintenance to continue meds or not. Many in my circle don't understand why I still do a weekly shot.
Yeah, there are several studies about this for both tirzepatide and semaglutide. Patients that discontinue the medication usually have a fair amount of weight regain, and in a great, I guess, a great argument to sort of give back to people who say, you look great. I don't understand why you're still taking it, would be that, obesity is a chronic relapsing disease. And for most people, obesity and the weight associated with it do relapse, just like high blood pressure will relapse if you take the medication away. Just like high cholesterol will relapse if you take your statin away. These obesity medications are really no different. It's treating some underlying metabolic dysfunction. And when you remove that drug from the equation, you also remove the benefit of it.
That's well put.
Yes, thank you, Dave. And Pam said, and maintenance is such a mystery too, to continue the shot or to take a low dose, how not to regain if you stop taking it. I
think maintenance is an interesting topic for a lot of people. I would definitely follow some of the doctors on this and see what some of the doctors are doing. But some of the conversations that you may want to have with your doctor are a couple things. Especially if it's cost prohibitive to use the shot as often as maybe you've been using it to get to your goal weight. A lot of people have been taking the higher doses, but stretching them out, taking it, a couple of weeks at a time instead of every week, or more getting the high dose in compounded versions and then microdosing it. There's been a lot of different things, maybe even switching to a different medication. If you're on Mounjaro and Zepbound, maybe switching to liraglutide or something that's available in a generic like that. Contrave, there's other non-GLP-1 medications. There may be something that you can maintain on if you're not wanting to take the shot. But for most people, they'll need some sort of medication to keep the progress.
Yeah. And Pam's sending you some love, Dave. And she says, so true, Dave. And his messages are so, so special. Sending love. Mm-hmm. Yep, such a beautiful message. And Jennifer says, good night to all. And Sue's heading out. And Pammy says, divine placement and divine intervention. When you see it happen or find out you were being guided by God or your source, it hits straight to the heart and gives me chills.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Hey, and Mindy looked up Nick Ahmed for us.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thanks, Mindy. And Sandra said, I could listen to you guys all night. Oh, thanks so much, Sandra. It's just so much fun seeing Dave. I've been wanting to do this with Dave for quite a while. So it's just so nice having you on, Dave.
It's good to be here. I'm glad we got the chance to do it on a Monday night.
Yeah. And Kay says, my taste and interest in wine has changed. Prefer to drink water now. Very strange. Used to love to have a glass a week when socializing.
Don't.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Use the scroll wheel. There you go.
And Pammy says, alcoholic drinks make me feel sick now to my stomach. That may end up being a good thing in the long run. Hey, we got Anna in the house. Yay. She's saying hi to us. Love having Anna here.
Hi, Anna.
And yep, and Sue's saying hey to her too. And we got Amanda here. Hi, Amanda.
Next one.
She says, I watch Dave all the time. Yay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Me too, Amanda. He's awesome. And Melanie says, hi, Dave, Gina, and Jeff. This is exciting to see you all together. Hey, we got Traveling Tea
Amy
here.
has a website.
Oh, that Amy gal has a website, Dave.
Yeah.
Good to
I don't
know.
what it is, but.
And Cindy, Taz the Bulldog's mom, says, I watch Dave all the time too. Amy Danae, weight loss. Look her up. Okay. And Cindy says, everybody reacts differently to everything. Do what's best for you. Absolutely. And lots of prayers to Pam. And Cindy says, my palpitations I get from menopause. I was shocked. It's amazing how many things menopause can give you. That is for sure, Cindy. And Melanie says, I so appreciate all of you and what you've shared with our community. I've learned a lot from both of your channels. Yay. Thanks, Melanie. I appreciate that. And Kay says, Dave, is your Mounjaro still covered if your BMI is not in the obese range? Asking as an Aussie whose dose is not covered.
Interesting. It seems like that's a question that they're asking about their own coverage of Mounjaro, not mine. In the United States, how it works is and people might be like, why are they on Mounjaro if they're taking it for weight loss? In Australia, there is no Zepbound. In most foreign countries, they're all, no, in the US. Okay. In the US, how it works, Mounjaro is prescribed for only type 2 diabetes. So you have to have type 2 diabetes to get this covered by your insurance. Most people, like 99% of the people who have Mounjaro, are covered because they have type 2 diabetes. If you're taking it for obesity, it's called Zepbound. It's the same thing, but Zepbound now is for people with a BMI over 27 or a 27 with a comorbidity or over 30. And so when you get to your goal weight, it's a good question. Do you lose the medication? Well, when your doctor fills out what's called a prior authorization, which is basically just in the United States, when you go to get a medication, every now and again, your insurance company will make your doctor prove that you need the medication. And when your doctor goes to fill out a prior authorization, once you're at your goal weight, they need to be using your starting weight and not your current weight. If they use your starting weight in your prior authorization, then you're fine because your starting weight was what you were treating. If they use your current weight, they're going to say this person doesn't have obesity and they don't need this drug. So it's important that they use in the prior authorization that they use your starting weight.
That is fantastic advice. Anybody who's watched this video to this point, you made it worth it for them right there.
Yeah, good. And then I think what Determined is asking here, if your blood sugar is non-diabetes, kind of same thing with your prior authorization on Mounjaro. If you're taking it for diabetes, when your doctor goes to fill out your prior authorization on this, it should be your starting blood sugar, not your current blood sugar. Because people have lost because their doctor put their current, like right now, my A1C is in the 5s. That's not going to fly for coverage, but they need to be, when they submit your prior authorization, including, your, I think it's the blood sugar at the time of your diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. And that's what they're looking for, is that diagnosis code. Different codes are attached in our medical billing system. So when they send a prescription to the pharmacy, they send it with a diagnosis code, a code that indicates the reason that that patient is taking that drug. So then when they submit that to billing and insurance, the insurance can go, oh, there's a 065 code on that. That means this person has, clinical obesity, therefore we'll cover the medication. So yeah, it's a really convoluted system here in the United States, in terms of how the insurance and the payers all work to make sure that you get your medication, and a lot of tips and tricks that you need to be aware of, and doctors frankly need to be aware of.
Right.
One of the things, if you can see my hat here, it says Appeal on it. This is a hat from a company that I work with called Claimable. I'm not trying to do an infomercial here, but just to give you some sort of scope of how big the problem is here, Claimable is a company that exists to fight back against prior authorizations, because these insurance companies rely on people not ever fighting their prior authorization. So in other words, if your doctor submits a prior authorization and they deny it because they forgot to use your starting blood sugars or they forgot to use your starting BMI, 90% of people in the United States don't fight their prior authorization denial. And so insurance companies rely on people not fighting to stay profitable. And so what Claimable does is they come along and for like $40, they will take all the information you've been given from your doctor, your insurance company, and everything, and they'll compile a medical case and a legal case and submit that case back to your insurance company. They'll send it a copy of it to your legislators, to your employers, to your doctor, all the interested parties. And the whole purpose of this is because 80% and 90% of denials aren't even fought. And when they are fought and they're fought effectively, 80% of the time they're overturned. And so it's just people don't know the process. That's the problem, is like people just assume my insurance denied it, they're not going to cover it. There's nothing I can do. But there's a legal framework in every state in the United States that gives you a path to fight that prior authorization. And if they can't justify the medical reason why they're not approving it, then they can find themselves in legal trouble. But again, they just bank on people not fighting those denials.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know that happened with Health at Any Cost, and she worked hard through the appeals process, and she got her medication again.
Good for her. Yeah, I mean, I've heard just terrible stories of people with cancer diagnoses, and they're looking down, they've got one drug that could potentially save their life and the insurance company won't cover it. It's a lot of people in the United States for a long time have talked about not wanting single payer system like they have in Australia or other parts of the world, because they are afraid that we will have like these death panels. The reality is we have them in the United States. They're called pharmacy benefit managers, and they're the ones that determine whether you get your treatment or not. It's just that it's not the government, it's private enterprise. So.
Yep. Let's see. And Melanie says, my A1C was 9.9 and now it's 5.6. Yay. Because of Mounjaro. I will remember what you were saying if I have to get authorized again. Thanks, Dave. Seriously. That was hugely helpful for all of us.
Good.
And Kay says, sounds complicated. In Australia, doctors report your current BMI and BSL for their records and care plan, which are regulated by the federal government.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to get on it for maintenance if they're using your current weight, but maybe they already have that information.
Maybe. Okay, I think there's is it? Because it looks like there's another.
Is there?
Yep.
Oh, what do you know? Sorry.
All right. And Anna says she enjoyed our show tonight. And Cindy says, good night, all. Thanks for this great live bedtime. Because she's got to get her butt in the gym early tomorrow morning. Be blessed, and thanks again. It was so much fun, you guys. Now we need to see who the top 3 leaders are in the chat today. And I can't figure that out using StreamYard, but I can when I just go on my. That's weird. Here we go.
This is officially the latest I've ever been at the office here.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm not used to it being dark here.
Who won the leaderboard here today? And then I'll view channel.
Oh, and there was another comment here from Determined 34 from Kay. That's why I asked the question. Australia, you pay full price from start to maintenance.
Yeah, but what is your full price? Your full price is similar to what our I would imagine your full price is similar to what our cost is with insurance, maybe somewhere between that and what we would be paying for like the cash pay vials. So I would guess in Australia, when they say cash pay, they pay about $250 US, which is certainly more affordable than $500 or $600 or $1,100 or $1,400.
Yeah, which here. We have to thank you, Dave, for the Free the Vials campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Release the vials.
Yeah,
and I did do that hashtag when you were doing that, and they finally did release those vials.
They did. And that was a game changer. I mean, not only did they release the vials, but they released them cash pay and went around the pharmacy benefit managers. And that's amazing. $350 US for 2.5 milligrams. Wow. It's more than I thought. That's pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Because $350 is what you can pay cash for in the US.
Mm-hmm. If you get it in the vials.
If you get the vial, yeah. And then it goes up to $4.99 for all the other doses. So I imagine it's probably goes up in price too as you go up in dose there.
Yep. All right. So for the placement tonight, number 1 was Sandy Murphy. Yay, Sandy. And second place was Grant. Woohoo! All right, Grant. And third place today was K is Determined 34. Yay. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for answering everybody's questions and for all you do on our behalf. And in another, probably be about 6 or 7 weeks, we'll be done with your book, and we'll need you to pop on a Sunday.
67.
I would love to. That'd be fun.
All right. Well, everybody, hold on to your anchor moments and make it a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.